The following program is brought to you by the Zero DB Movie Podcast feed. Okay, so what happens after we put our little monster to sleep? We talk film after dark. Good evening, Zero DB Movie Podcast listeners, and welcome to episode 4 of After Dark, our after hours movie podcast that we do after our little monster goes to sleep. I am your humble host, Gabe Aniel. With me is the second half of the we in this After Dark podcast, and that is my co-host and lovely wife, Claudia. Good evening.
Good evening.
How's it going?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I think we're both getting over a cold, right?
Yes, and being cooped up because the crazy weather.
Yes, crazy weather. We've been inside, although I went to work today on a happy Sunday, but
So fun.
it was also minus 12 degrees.
That was shocking.
That was pretty cool. So, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Hopefully everyone has had some much needed R&R and got out, weather permitting, and watched some movies, and also stayed home, weather permitting, and binged on some movies. So either way, it's probably like a win-win, right?
For sure.
Speaking of New Year's Day, one of the most celebrated boxing movies took place on New Year's Day, which I did not know until I wrote this. That's the movie we're going to be discussing tonight. Tonight, we are discussing a movie that I feel stands the test of time. I think a lot of people feel that it stands the test of time if they actually remember it. But usually when I think about this movie franchise, I'll refer to like 3 or 4, or like some of the not so great ones. But we never talk about how great the first one was, because it feels so old, right?
Right.
That's the one that started it all. The writer was pretty much homeless and wouldn't give in to the movie companies until he was cast as the lead.
Yeah.
And we are talking about the Italian stallion himself, Rocky Balboa, and this is the movie Rocky, 1976.
The original.
The original, man, like OG. Directed by John G. Avildsen.
Okay.
I never knew who he was until I started looking him up, and he was kind of like a little bit more of a director, well known than I thought.
Oh.
I mean, the ones that we know, he got an Oscar for Rocky.
Right.
He was nominated for a Razzie for Rocky 5.
Well deserved. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
He also did Karate Kid 1, 2, and 3. Director, as a director. He was nominated for a Razzie for Karate Kid 3. But he also directed Lean on Me.
Oh.
And I like Lean on Me.
Yeah.
You know? So apparently this guy was pretty good.
He's good at like physical / ensemble pieces. So
Right.
that's good.
Filmed for under $1 million. It was supposed to be $2 million. And then when they found out it was going to be Sylvester Stallone as the lead, and it wasn't going to be like, I'll
Robert
tell you the
Redford.
story in a second. Yeah, like all those guys, they gave him $1 million instead of $2 million.
Okay.
But it opened at $5 million,
Wow.
and worldwide it made $225 million. Mm-hmm. So it did something.
It's a good
It
story.
definitely did something. When do you remember seeing this one? I guess for the first time, or just when it popped into your life?
The original 1976
Yeah.
Rocky, probably in my 20s.
Okay.
The first Rocky movie I remember is Rocky 4 because I'm a child of the 80s. And that's the one where he fights
Drago.
Drago. I almost said Khal Drogo. Oh my God.
Wrong show.
Wrong franchise.
Wrong franchise, right?
But yeah, Drago. And so I had, of course, known who Rocky was, before I saw Rocky 4. And then I saw Rocky 4 and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Cold War, whatever. And then I slowly saw the others. I think I saw 5 and then, went back and saw 3 or whatever it is. And then finally in my 20s, I was like, okay, I gotta watch like the actual Oscar winner, that's worth something. Not that the other Rockies aren't, but this is the one, So I went back and I watched it, and it was obviously a great story. I did not know he doesn't win. Did not. I was like, oh, well, that's surprising.
That's pretty cool, right?
It's obviously, I think that's why the story resonates with so many people. But and then in watching it again now, I really pick up on like the grittiness and the guerrilla style filmmaking techniques that they had to, in use because they didn't have any money, which I'm sure you have a lot of anecdotes about as we were researching the movie. But yeah, it's a masterpiece. It's just a story that resonates with everyone and is even being told again now with the Creed series, and it's still successful because people love it.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me read you a quick one about basically like, I guess the well-known backstory of what happened with like the script written by Stallone and the producers buying it and all that. But basically, it said after producers Irwin Winkler and Robert Chartoff became interested in the script, they offered Sylvester Stallone an unprecedented $350,000 for the rights, but he refused to sell unless they agreed to allow him to star in the film. This despite the fact that he had only $106 in the bank, no car, and was trying to sell his dog because he couldn't afford to feed it. So they agreed, but only on one condition: that Stallone continued to work as a writer without a fee, and that he work as an actor for scale. After Winkler and Chartoff purchased the film, they took it to United Artists, who envisioned a budget of $2 million, but that was on the basis of using an established star. They particularly wanted Robert Redford, Ryan O'Neal, Burt Reynolds, or James Caan.
James
Imagine
Caan.
that.
James Caan could have done it. I
Caan
think.
probably could have done it.
Not as good, but just
Right.
because this is Stallone's baby, and you can tell on every level.
Exactly. United Artists didn't want Stallone to star, and when Winkler and Chartoff told them that the only way they could get him to sell the screenplay was to agree to cast him. So United Artists cut the budget to $1 million and had Chartoff and Winkler sign agreements that if the film went over budget, they would be personally liable. So the final cost of the film was $1.1 million. The $0.1 million came after Chartoff and Winkler mortgaged their houses so as to complete the project.
Wow. Wow.
I'm the same. I don't remember exactly when I saw it. I probably saw 3 or 4 first, one of those things, because of the age thing and all that. I mean, 76. I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
I wasn't watching Rocky. All at 3.5, I was watching Superman.
Yeah.
But yeah, it must have been that. It must have been like, seeing it 3 or 4 on like HBO or renting the movie or something like that, and then like Rocky 1 was probably on HBO or one of those things, and you get to see it, and then you don't realize it. Oh, you know what? I specifically do remember us renting it, and we rented 1 and 2 because of like how it goes. Like you can put 2 in, and it's like the ending of 1,
Right.
and it continues.
Right.
Which is great, so it's got this whole like overall could have been one giant movie thing.
Right.
So I mean, what's your? I was gonna ask you what your overall feeling was about this, but I mean, I guess I'll tell you me first, because that way then you can go into your overall feelings and then kind of jump into notes, and
Okay.
then like we can like get a grasp on that. I'm gonna start out by saying that I overall really love this film. The message that you get from it, like the overall like life lesson, the sentiment, and like how it truly makes you believe in like last chances or like lucky chances, like that one shot. I love the location sets, like in Philly, all those like exterior shots and all that. The soundtrack, which is Bill Conti, which we all know the Rocky soundtrack. But just like the flow of the movie, like it's just like I love how like everyone starts like down on their luck. Like everyone's in the pits. Everyone's on Skid Row. Everyone from like Rocky, Adrian, Paulie, even Apollo. because the guy he's going to fight is injured, so now
Right.
he's down in his luck because he came to Philly and he's got nothing to do,
Right.
and they need to do something, right?
Right.
So that's what I love because at the end, like everything is like a slow. Everyone's got their own journey to what makes them feel like some kind of success.
Right. Right. Right.
So I mean, I give it a solid. I loved it.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too. How could you not love this movie?
You
I
know?
mean, it's it's storytelling at its finest. Everybody always says it, and it's so true. It's just I think also maybe the movie wouldn't have been as good if all of those production issues hadn't been part of the story, because it just seems like everybody involved, it was like a labor of love, and like
Right.
people really believing in something and like really giving it everything they had and being creative about it. I'm sure you'll have a little bit later in our interview, I'm sure you'll mention like the little things people did last minute because
Right.
of production issue or whatever. And I mean, but it just makes the story all that much real, and like it feels true to like every man, and woman. And you're right, everybody's down on their luck. They're a bunch of losers. Everybody's a freaking loser in this movie. Like, there's nobody that's got their stuff together.
Right. It's the
Everybody's
age
a
thing too,
mess.
right? Like Rocky and Adrian are both 30.
Yeah, like there's nothing. It's so bleak and like sad, but even still, like even in the beginning when they're really setting up how like sad Rocky is and like he's lonely, and but he's still funny and he's still like charismatic and he's still trying. I mean, he doesn't have a championship to look forward to in the beginning or anything like that. And honestly, even he's never like he's always kind of reluctant about it. Actually, he's never really like I'm gonna give it to this guy. Like it's not like that.
Right,
There's
right.
no foe in this movie. Like yeah, okay, Apollo Creed is like the champion, arrogant, whatever, but even he's super endearing, and it's not like you want to see him get pummeled. You just want
Right.
Rocky to get a win.
Right.
And so at the end, like when he didn't win the fight, I was like, oh my God. But then at the same time, I was like, who cares? He won everything. And like, we'll get to that. But yeah, I mean, there's so much about the movie that's just perfect. And like I said, I don't think it could have been as good if it had the $2 million budget, if it had everybody being comfortable, if it had, the executives being perfectly happy with casting and perfectly happy with this and that and the other. It wouldn't have been true to the story.
I look at it as like the appetite of destruction of movies, because like when you hear like the Guns N' Roses things with the appetite for destruction and the band going out to LA and being like homeless and dirt poor and like trying to get the record together and blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
the same kind of thing where it's just like in those times of desperation the beautiful art comes out,
Yeah.
and that's what it is.
And it was, you could tell in some of the like documentary footage we saw and stuff, like you could tell there was just like a real love for the work that people were doing, and like they just gave it everything and hoped for the best,
Right.
and it's kind of like what the characters are doing in the movie, which is just doing the best they possibly can and, looking towards the future, I guess, like without even really saying like that's what it is. It's a story. It's such an uplifting story, but it doesn't bang you over the head with like,
It's like a day by day thing.
yeah, like it's not like, there's some other uplifting movies that are effective, but you're kind of like, all right, I see like the chins coming and like I can see that. This movie's not like that. This movie's just so organic and like just, there are scenes obviously that lift you up, but it doesn't feel like calculated. It
Right.
feels like I needed this right this second because everything else was so real and I'm so down here and I just, so whatever. It was really truly beautiful movie, and you can watch it over and over again and like still feel like it's funny. Polly,
It's It's a great trip.
He's such a mess, and
Characters.
like you really feel like you're part of that family, just the dysfunction of it, and like just the dialogue, and so much of it I feel like, I know Stallone wrote the script, but I have to feel like some of it was improvised, like it had to have been, because of everything about it. Like it just seems like people really just lived in the moment and like said what they had to say without feeling like I'm gonna get this wrong. It was just like,
Because it felt right.
yeah, like this is just, this is who this character is, and we're gonna go for it.
Totally.
So I really like that. Did you want me to start on my notes and
Yeah,
stuff? or-
so to get you started on your notes, I'm going to read you a quick tagline. And we're going to start from there because I think it's a good segue to do it. It says Rocky Balboa, a small time boxer, gets a supremely rare chance to fight heavyweight champion Apollo Creed in a bout in which he strives to go the distance for his self respect. I mean, that to me seems pretty much like a little simplified of a rundown that I feel that like does no justice to the movie, right? So just hearing that rundown, I mean, let's jump into your notes and see how much it really is more than just that.
Right, right. So the very first thing I wrote down is, the opening shot is in like Rocky's amateur fight, and it's in a church basement, which is like, how depressing, right?
Or a church, whether it's the basement or not.
I mean, I think it's a basement, like the rec room or whatever.
The rec room, I think, is it's got
yeah.
a pretty tall ceiling.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't see an altar, but it just is like, oh, really? This is what you're doing? Okay, so that's like depressing.
Right away, you establish it's like a
Yeah.
older, down and out boxer,
Yeah.
obviously doing these like high school gymnasium
And then
stuff.
I realized how, like, years later, that other movie, The Wrestler, kind of stole a little bit from Rocky. I feel
Oh,
like
a lot
with
of
like,
movies
yeah,
did this. Yeah, yeah.
But anyway,
Even the Marky Mark movie where he tries out for the Eagles.
I don't think I saw that. What is it called?
Yeah, I
You know,
forgot
right?
the name. I'll look it up. But like, it's pretty much a guy from Philly. The Eagles are doing so bad that they have open tryouts.
Oh,
And this is like, oh my God, I've always wanted to be this football player, and I always
Right,
got
right.
dissed. This is my chance.
but I mean, I guess like in a rundown area, where else are you gonna have a boxing match, right? I guess it has to be like a community room, probably in a
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
So anyway, but the very opening image is of Jesus, his bleeding heart, right? Which is like synonymous with communion for me. I'm a Roman Catholic. And like communion is all about transformation, one thing becoming something else. Like obviously for really religious people, we're talking about the conversion of the wafer into the body of Jesus Christ. That's like salvation, right? But for lay people, secular people, it's just sort of like the idea that you're taking one thing and turning it into something else. And that's what this movie is about. It's somebody going through a change. Actually, all the characters go through a change. And the very first piece of dialogue that you hear is, I think, the ref, I guess. He says to Rocky, "You're waltzing. You need some action." And I said, oh my God, that's exactly it. Here's this guy. He's totally aimless. He's going nowhere. He needs a pep in his step. Like he needs something.
Was it his corner guy?
Was it his corner guy?
Yeah, because I
don't
think when
know.
the bell rang, he sat down and the guy's like, "You're waltzing out
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
and you
yeah.
need, yeah, he's
Yeah,
trying
you
to
need
give him,
action. Like,
trying
you
to give
need-
him advice."
Right. I didn't know who he was, but and then behind them there's a big sign that says like Resurrection AC. I don't really know what that means, or what the AC is, but the word resurrection, again, obviously they're in a church, it's a religious thing, but it's also the idea that, someone's gonna overcome something. Like,
Very, very biblical.
yeah, come out of whatever despair they're in. So that was sort of foreshadowing of what this movie's about. And then at one point, Spider Rico is his
His opponent.
his opponent.
Right. Apparently
Poor-
another washed up guy.
Poor Spider Rico.
Yeah, so it looks like Spider Rico can beat the crap out of him, but at some point he headbutts.
Yeah, he headbutts
Rocky.
Rocky, and that sets him off. And then you see the
Right.
ferocity.
But before that, people are calling Rocky a bum. They're like, "Come on, fight, you bum," because he's like just sitting there just taking punches.
Right, right.
And then Spider Rico headbutts him.
And
Rocky
he
gets
splits his
pissed.
head, and then Rocky gets pissed, and you see the
Right.
ferocity that he really has and
Right.
what he can really do. So he like beats him up and he wins the fight. And then we go into the scene where I guess the promoter guy is paying them out. Also, so depressing. Like, here these two beat up dudes, they're just sitting there
Laying next to each other in the locker room.
and they're like, I don't know, poor Spider Rico gets paid like $10
Something terrible.
and Rocky gets
$17.50
I
or
know.
something after cornerman fees, locker fee. You gotta
right.
pay for your locker.
Right.
You pay for the guy that's in your corner
You
giving
pay
you
to
advice.
play.
You pay to play.
Yeah. And you get nothing. And then Rocky gets paid like, I don't know, $30 for winning the fight.
Right.
So I know it's 1976 and $30 is probably closer to 100, but whatever.
It's like you're doing a gig at night.
Yeah, it's lame. So that was so depressing and sad. And then from there we see Rocky going, now we see Philly, the streets of Philly, right? He's walking home, right? Or maybe he goes to the bar. No, I think he goes home.
At some point, we see that he does this for a meager living,
Yeah.
and he also is a collection
Yes, he
guy
works
for the mob.
For small-time gangster, mobster, loan shark. He's a loan shark. So, but my point is just that we're starting to see Philly, like, and we see that it's gritty. It's nighttime. It's wet.
Right.
It's like gloomy and like just really raw. Everything about it is raw. And Rocky throughout the movie has this way of like moving, like just the physicality that Stallone brings to them.
He's
character.
always like ducking and weaving.
Yeah, he's always
as
kind
he's
of like
walking, like he's like shadow boxing.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's just I don't know, like the fight is in him,
Right.
but he's not doing anything with it. He's just it's in him. And then then we see this crowd of people singing, and I know
They're
one
the
of the
corner singers.
I know, but what is that? Like I've never.
It's like the doo-wop thing.
Yeah, but really?
Take me back.
People just hanging out in the corner.
yeah, singing.
I've never seen that in my life.
Started in the 50s when they were doing the doo-wop stuff.
Well,
in
it
the
must have
corners.
stopped in 1976 because.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe it was a little homage to that, but I mean,
But I know his brother was in it.
yes.
What's his name?
Frank Stallone.
Frank Stallone. But they were careful because you can see him for a split second and he looks too much
they
like
look a lot
Sly.
alike, yeah,
He
yeah.
looks too much like Sly. So you could tell that they were like purposefully not showing him much. So there was that, which I thought was a little silly. And I guess you're right. Like it's just a throwback, but it took me out of the realism for a second just because they didn't recognize it as something that could possibly really happen as he's walking home late at night. And then we go to Rocky's apartment, which is sad and lonely, really run down. And like, I mean,
It stinks.
it stinks.
It stinks,
We're
Mick.
gonna see
It stinks.
that later. And then I guess we move into the next day or another day where he goes to the pet shop. Actually, on his way home, he passed by the pet shop. Remember?
Yeah.
It was cute little puppies.
There were little puppies in the window, right.
And he's
Pet
just
shop was
like,
closed.
he's playing with them and like, oh my God, you're like, he's such a sensitive guy. Like, he's so sweet. He loves puppies, whatever. Then he goes back to the pet shop and Adrian is there. And we meet Adrian for the first time and he's trying to tell her these really stupid jokes
Yeah, but before we see him at home,
with the turtle.
and he's got the turtle food. Oh, he introduces all his pets. Right. His animals, which are turtles.
Which are very slow.
Right, but you see him talking in the mirror. I like this. It's endearing. You see him talking in the mirror about how many moths and flies are in the turtle food.
Yeah, and you're like, what is he talking about?
And then when he's with Adrian, he's like, yo, Adrian, there's more moths than flies in
Oh,
this.
you know what I mean?
And like that's
Yeah,
his
you
like
see?
how he breaks the ice before he can tell her a joke. Which
And
is cool. You can see that's endearing.
Like he's working on it.
Right.
Like she's on
He's
his
thinking
mind.
about it, right.
I know that is sweet. And so he tells her the joke or whatever, and then he leaves, and we see him on his job, with the loan shark Gazzo, who at first you're kind of like, oh, this guy's a douche, like, what kind of dude is this? Like, why is he involved with this guy? Whatever. But then, just like everything else in this movie, he's a good guy.
Yeah, like he keeps lending Rock money.
He gives him money.
And
He
you're just
never
like,
lends it to
you're
him.
right. And I kept thinking, like, all right, when's he going to ask for this payback? When's there?
No, he
No, he
never
just giving
does.
it to him because he's like, yeah, all right, good luck.
Yeah, he gives him money to go take out Adrian. Gives him money for his training later on. Like, he like diffuses the situation between Rocky and his driver, who's a
Right.
jerk.
Right.
So, like he's a good guy. And like at first you're like, oh, I don't want him to be involved with the mob or whoever, I want him to be a good guy. But anyway, and he is because he's trying not to break this guy's thumbs and he gets yelled at
For not
for
breaking his
not
thumbs.
breaking the thumbs by Gaza. And then I wrote down that I started to notice that one of the themes in the movie I felt was Rocky's physicality. We kind of talked about that just now. It's a huge part of his character, just the way he moves, the like nervous energy
Almost
he
like
expends.
Neanderthal-like, too.
Oh, absolutely. But like he uses it like throughout, there's another scene later where he's going on the date, when he shows up to Polly and Adrian's house for the date and it goes all wrong and he's like walking up to the bedroom like to talk to her and he's just like shuffling or like
Right.
doing the little punch, like, it's like his nervous energy is coursing through. And I wrote that we see what his physique is like at rest. Like there's a lot of scenes of him just kind of like relaxing, laying down, like, beat up, spent, whatever, thinking. And then what happens when he's angry or focused, which is later when he's training. But so that's a big part of the character. I don't think Rocky would be Rocky without those movements.
Right.
And then I wrote he has sort of these sparring matches with all the characters, like dialogue wise. He has one with Gazzo when he's talking about not breaking the guy's thumbs. He has one with Mick later, the huge scene, heartbreaking scene. And then he has one with Paulie, also in the locker room, not the meat room, right? The meat when Paulie's being rude about Adrian and he lets him have it finally. And then with Adrian too, but with Adrian, I found he wasn't really sparring with her because she wasn't talking, but it reminded me of like when a boxer is at the punching bag. The punching bag. I always forget what it's called. And they're just going do 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 because he's relentless with her. Like he's just when they go out on a date and they're just skating and he's like, "Oh, look at my pictures and look at that." And she's just like, But you could tell she's interested, right? Because she's
Right.
just shy. But it's like it doesn't stop him. He knows what he wants. He wants to be with her. And that's another example of when Rocky knows what he wants, he goes for it, And so it just reminded me of that action of like a boxer hitting the punching bag, the way he was sort of, Adrian, look at this, Adrian, you see, look at this. And I'm a southpaw and I come from whatever it is.
Right.
It's
Just
like
doesn't stop talking.
He doesn't stop talking. That's what I mean. Like, who writes this? Like, I really feel like he was improvising that. Like, I feel like that must have been some sort of improvisation.
And
Maybe it
especially
wasn't.
since he
But
wrote the script,
yeah,
you
like
can jump
he's just
in
kind
and out
of
of that
riffing.
stuff like it sounds like it's him because it was him.
Yeah, and it's perfect because it's just like this ramble, like this just endearing,
Like a nervous
realistic ramble.
first date type thing.
Yeah, then I wrote that when Rocky walks the little girl Marie,
Marie.
another one that's been hanging out.
Hey, screw you, creepo.
No, but she's another one. The whole way home, he's saying, you
lecturing
can't
her.
do this, you can't do
Yeah.
that, and I'm gonna use a bad word, the word whore. Oh, if you do this, you're gonna be called a whore. No one's gonna take you seriously, whatever. Like he's like some dad or something, and she's just like listening and listening and listening, and they get to the door, and she goes, "Hey, Rocky," and he turns around, and she's like, "Screw you, creepo."
Apparently, originally in the script it was "fu," the word "fu," creepo, but they changed it to "screw you." Creepo.
Oh my God, so funny. She had a smart mouth. But it was just hilarious because it was like, here's this guy, he's trying to be a good neighbor, trying to take care of the kids,
Neighborhood type.
but it's like nobody needs you.
Right.
Like, I don't need you to do this for me. Like, get lost. And that was like when they were setting up how pathetic his life is. And then also about the possibility of the script being improvised, I felt like, the dialogue is very repetitive. And I didn't know if that was intentional or if it just got cut that way because, we realized all of the constraints with money and like the economy of everything that they were doing. But I mean, like, there's Paulie asks Rocky for a job, like in every scene. He's constantly asking Rocky for a job. And then there's that scene where Rocky's going to see Adrian at Paulie's house. He must have said, she knows I'm coming, right? She knows I'm coming, right? Like, he must have said that like 5 different times, like all in succession.
Right, which makes it even better when he gets there and Adrian's like, why didn't you tell me he was coming?
No, absolutely. But what I mean is like, in a regular script, you would say it once and it would be understood that this is important and then that's it. But
it shows the dynamic of Rocky and Paulie.
Yeah, like this.
Because they're both
banter.
Yeah, I feel like they both just talk at each other. Like Rocky's constantly just like asking him questions and saying, "Are you gonna do this, right?" And then Paulie just constantly just be like, "It's gonna be like this."
Yeah.
And they never listen to each other.
Because they're just kind of like two just not, I don't want to say dumb guys, but they're just kind of like hooligan types. Yeah. Not hooligans, but
just two dudes, just two common men.
Two dudes, like they're just, I don't know. But, I mean, they're friends, and they care about each other.
They're probably
obviously,
best friends.
I'm sure they're best friends. But it's just funny that this repetition didn't bother anybody. Like the director it didn't bother the director, it didn't bother the
because we all know how stubborn they are.
The editor, like nobody was like, yeah, I don't think we need this 5 times,
Maybe they're all like, this is hilarious 5 times.
Maybe.
She knows I'm coming, right? Listen, Rock. Blah, 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 blah. It's just like,
she knows. She's excited. Coming, right? She's excited. Yeah. But she knows I'm coming. She's excited. And then she's like, why didn't you tell me? And he's like, see, she's excited. And that's the scene where she goes into her bedroom. She closes the door. And Rocky's like, maybe I should go because this is terrible. And Paulie's like, no, go talk to her. Go talk to her. That's where he does that cute little shuffle.
Right.
With his, like he's punching him kind of. It's so cute. And then I wrote the romantic scene played out with choreography. I think this is after their date. And they're in his apartment. And Adrian did not want to go up to the apartment because she knew what was going to happen when she went up to the apartment. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think happened at the apartment? They kind of leave it a little bit like, do you think they like spent the night together, or do you think like?
I mean, I don't know if it happened then or eventually, but at one time when Paulie's all drunk when he comes home, and he's just like,
he alludes to that she's not a virgin.
Yeah.
And she gets very upset. So you think, okay.
Yeah.
And Mick also was like, lay off that bra or whatever, because he weakens the legs and
weakens the knees or whatever.
Yeah. So obviously they're in an intimate relationship, but you're not sure if it happened that first night.
I'm not sure.
I think it did. I think that's why she didn't want to go up to the apartment, because she knew that's exactly what was going to happen. And not in a bad way. I think she just knew that if she went up there, that would be. And then I heard just yesterday we were watching that interview, very bad quality. Obviously, somebody from the audience was just filming it, but she was being interviewed. They were about to screen the movie for the 40th anniversary in Philly, and somebody asked about that scene and the kiss, like because he takes her glasses off. I mean, the scene is amazing. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's a little like, especially in today's climate, it's a little like, maybe he's coming on too strong, because like she's obviously sending signals that like she doesn't want him to come near her and stuff, but he's still coming to her and cornering her type of thing. But then like when he takes her glasses off, that's like the most romantic, and everybody melts. Like, and then he says to her, "I always knew you were pretty." Oh, I mean, of course you're going to take your clothes off. Like, it was so beautiful. And Talia Shire herself, in this interview, they were like, oh, yeah. And then he took your glasses off. And she was kind of like, what? She almost didn't remember how that happened because I think it was improvised. And he just did it working on the scene. And it worked. And she said, even filming, that she was like, what did I do? I fell to the ground. Did I fall to the ground? And that's exactly what happened. So you could tell that they were like definitely having like a real chemistry, and like it was the romance started that will last 6 movies.
Right.
You know, like this is the love of each other's lives, and like this is his new reason to fight, and like her reason to blossom, and like, you know, it was just, and it all happened in that one little tiny scene. So that was really, really good. And then I wanted to ask you, the next note I have is about the scene after he's learned that he's gonna fight Apollo Creed, and Mick finds out and comes to his door, and they have that big confrontation.
Yes.
So, what do you think is Mick's motivation for that scene?
I immediately think of it the way Rocky thought of it. He's like, oh, you don't give me the time of day.
Oh yeah, he took away his locker already.
Right.
Beginning.
You don't give me the time of day. You take away my locker. And now I'm fighting Apollo Creed. And now you're here.
Right.
I don't need a trainer. I already got the fight.
Right. A manager. He's like,
Yeah.
you need a manager. You
Right.
need a manager.
He's like, I don't need a manager. I already got the fight.
Right.
But as we find out, I mean, he really wants Mick to train him. He's always wanted Mick to train him.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
like, yeah, I think it's really like, and Mick kind of like straight up tells you, I'm 75. This is my last shot. This
Right.
is the last chance.
Right.
Mick, this is Mick showing up and showing you also he's down in the dumps and he's a loser too. So I believe him.
Yeah. I had a hard time just because I was like, why is he here? Is he here because he really wants to help Rocky, or is he here because by helping Rocky he'll feel like his career was worthwhile?
Well, I feel like he was very honest when he was like, look at that, right? Like some guys are perfect for this fight. They have the right charisma and they have the right fighting skills, but here we are and you got it.
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
Right.
He's like, that's a once in a lifetime chance. Rock's like, yeah, I know. And then Mick's kind of like, yeah, so this is why I'm here. It's the once in a lifetime chance.
He spent some time talking about how he got cheated in his career,
Yeah.
and because he didn't have a manager and he didn't have someone basically looking out for him. So in a way, I wonder if he just truly doesn't want Rocky to get
Yeah, he
taken
might be like,
advantage
I
of.
might be able to finally steer someone in the right direction that I wasn't able to go in that direction.
Right.
I think he's very honest.
Yeah. But see, that's the other thing about it. That's why this movie is so good, is because it's complicated. It's not, nothing is just win or lose, yes or no. Like, you know, it's just, with the exception of his relationship to Adrian, right? That
Right. I mean, I
takes
also feel
off
that
by
Mick, when Mick showed up, and he was at the bottom of the stairs and he takes his hat off. For me, I felt like that was symbolically like he was checking his ego at the door. And he was like, all right,
Yeah.
I got to do this.
Right. And then when he's about to leave, remember Rocky goes into the bathroom and he yelled at him. And Rocky goes into the bathroom. He's about to leave and he opens the door. He, meaning Mick, opens the door and closes it again because he forgot his hat.
Right.
So if you're thinking of it as like his ego, the way he like picks it up is so sad.
Right.
And then Rocky like comes out because he thinks he left, and then he's like, oh, and goes back
Goes back
into
in.
the bathroom. And then you see Mick leaving, and it's like the saddest thing. And then of course, there's that amazing scene where
The monologue that Rocky does.
Oh yes, I was skipping, but yeah, yeah. You said you had something about that.
Yeah, apparently that's all improv.
Yeah.
Scene was supposed to end, and Sylvester Stallone just felt he said he was still mad.
Mm-hmm.
and they said that the bathroom really did stink. So he's just like, "What do you want? You don't like my place? This place stinks. This place stinks." And he kept repeating stuff because he's improvising. So I think
Right.
he was just buying time to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all improv. And then he runs out.
I know, and that's the scene I was talking about, and it's just so
The music
touching.
comes on.
And there's no dialogue,
No.
and it's just the image of Rocky going. It's almost like he's going to his father.
Yeah.
You know, like we don't know anything about Rocky's family, except that he had a family, and he loves them enough to have the photos in his apartment and stuff like that. But it's like, are they gone?
Right.
Are they just not? I mean, he seems to be from Philly, so it makes no sense that his family would be there and he'd be all by himself. So I feel like they're gone,
Yeah, they must be.
you know. And but you definitely get the sense in that scene when Rocky goes after Mick that he's like going after his dad. Like,
Right.
you know, he's saying, "I'm sorry," and he shakes his hand, and Mick comes back, and oh, it was beautiful. And then, like we saw that back featurette about the film, and they talked about how they got that nice wet floor for
Right,
that
like in the
scene.
Hollywood films, all the streets are always wet down.
Right.
And the people of Philly were so nice that they would come
neighbors.
out with buckets of water and wet down the streets for the scene
For free.
for free, so they didn't have to pay for a water truck.
Right, exactly. So that was
It's very
cool.
nice of them, yeah.
And then they had a PA you know, paying attention to when the train was coming so that they gave the signal to the director and then they said action, like to get that nice
The train going
coming.
by.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that was really beautiful filmmaking. And then, oh yeah, so then we start their training, Rocky's training, and we see him go out for his first run
Right.
in Philly.
Now we're starting to see the birth of the montage.
Oh yeah,
Birth of the montage. I mean, I'm sure there's probably other montages, but like the music, the montage, like this is the beginning of it. Like this is what everybody remembers of Rocky. You know, this montage.
yeah, for sure. His outfit is a mess. He drinks. Oh, he has those raw
Is it
eggs.
5 raw eggs into a
Yeah.
glass and chugs it at 4 in the morning with
Yeah.
a radio in the background. The
Yeah.
radio station's on.
And then I was like, why does he have to be up so early? Is it just a training thing? Because it's not like he has to go to work. Because he's a loan shark enforcer. That can happen later
Debt
in the
collector?
day.
He's a
Yeah,
debt
the debt
collector?
collector. So I was like, that's so weird that he got up so early. But I guess that's just
Discipline?
like a discipline training. So then he's a mess, right? Because he's like barely making it
Right,
on
way
his
out
run.
of shape.
He's still out of shape. So we see like his starting point, and we're like, wow, he's got a ways to go. And then the next note I have is from when he went to Polly's meat storage locker thing, and he starts punching the meat because Polly pissed him off because
Right.
Polly's basically like, he's asking for a job, he's not getting anywhere. So then he starts in about Adrian. And
What's going on with her? What's your intentions?
Yeah, and then he point blank asks if he's sleeping with her, and then Rocky gets pissed. So
Right.
he starts
'Cause he's old-fashioned.
Because he's old fashioned, and he starts punching the meat. And again, we see like that ferocity that he has when he's focused and upset, and like, you know, and even Polly's face. He looks like he's scared because he knows he's gonna.
Right. He's just like, don't break the ribs.
No, you're breaking the ribs. So that was cool. I think we see that. That's also another iconic image for Rocky, like him punching
Yeah.
the.
To this day, Sylvester Stallone said that his knuckles are flat
Oh really?
from that scene. To
Oh,
this day,
wow.
there's no peaks of knuckles. It's just flat.
Oh my God.
I'm punching those bones.
Ugh. Yeah, was Sylvester Stallone a boxer before this?
No.
No. Was he a dancer?
No.
Anything physical?
He said football. He had a football injury from, I think, either college or high school.
Oh,
But I
okay.
mean, high school, we know. I mean, he's been through like 14
For
different
some
high
reason.
schools and stuff.
I thought he was a boxer.
No. He said this story he told as a boxer, but it was supposed to be as an actor.
Right. The story of somebody trying to make it as an actor.
Right, but he said that nobody wants to see a movie about an actor. So he said he thought boxing would be more interesting.
Oh, he's probably right. Then Mick in his training says to Rocky, says, "You're off balance." I think this is like when he's sparring with in the gym, and I thought that was true. You know, the story is about finding a balance in your life, and so I thought that was good. And that's when Mick tells him that women weaken legs. So he told me he has to stay away from Adrian. But he was like, but I like this girl. I like this girl. And then Adrian gives him Butkus, which is really his dog in real
It's his
life.
real dog in real life.
That's the dog he was going to sell.
He had to sell. He sold his dog for $50.
Oh, that's right.
And when the movie got sold or whatever, he got his money. He bought the dog back for $3,000.
Oh my God. That's a horrible person that did that. Terrible. And then I wrote in the movie, all the characters, I said, everyone is getting at something. I feel like all the characters are working at something. Like Paulie wants a job. He wants to get out of that meat locker. Rocky obviously wants to train and get, be a contender. Mick wants to, well, I was having trouble with what he wanted from that scene, but it seems like he wants to matter.
He wants success for Rocky to do it right.
He wants his career to have meant something. And Adrian really just didn't want anything, but now that she's met Rocky, she seems like she's really come to be more assertive and autonomous and independent. And she ends up having that huge fight with Paulie when he's so disrespectful to her, and she makes the decision to move in with Rocky.
Right.
And he's like, oh, absolutely. So that was great.
You want a roommate?
Yeah. And then, of course, we see that really iconic second run up the museum steps with that Rocky does that training run where you said it was all like people on the street didn't even know they were filming. It was all guerrilla filming,
yeah, with a camera out the back of a van.
Yeah. And the guy threw an orange.
At Rocky when he was running. Didn't even know if a movie was being filmed. Just wanted to throw the guy running an orange.
Yeah. So then he makes it to the steps, and he's up there.
Successfully, right?
Yeah, and he's up there, and his arms are up, and, you have that still shot at the end of him like a champion. And later on, having now this being like third, fourth time I see the movie, I realize, I'm like, oh, we got our champion shot. And we got it like in the middle of the movie.
Right.
This is usually a shot you would reserve for the end when there's a clear winner.
Right.
But in this movie, we just saw it in this moment because he's trained and he's given it all. And
that's his victory.
That's his victory, right? So we have that moment there. And then, of course, we have him go to the arena where he's going to fight Apollo. And he meets with the promoter guy, and he's like looking around. You could tell he's like really feeling like a fish out of water, out of his element. And he says to the guy, "Oh, mister, you got it wrong. I'm gonna have white shorts with a red stripe." And in the
banner. The painting of Rocky, yeah, the shorts are reversed.
Yeah, the banner is red with a white stripe, and he's saying, "No, my shorts are gonna be white with a red stripe." And you said that was production wise. Right?
Yeah, in real life, the props people messed up, so Sylvester Stallone added the line
right
to call it out before people would like make fun of it or something.
Right.
He's like, "Oh, you got it wrong," and the guy's like, "Doesn't really matter."
But again, it's a production mistake, but it's so perfect for the character.
Exactly.
Like you can't write that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess you could, but it's so like. It only,
happy accidents.
Yeah, because it's just it's so perfect. So that was wonderful. And then of course he comes home and he pours his heart out to Adrian. And I love that Adrian in that scene he's saying to her, I can't do this. I can't do this. She doesn't have an easy answer. She doesn't have a stock, baby, you can do it. She doesn't have any of it. She just says, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? She said, but you worked so hard. She didn't even say but. She said, you worked so hard. And she just kind of comforts him, but she doesn't like pretend that everything's going to be okay. Right. She doesn't baby him. She doesn't
force a decision.
Yeah, she just kind of,
she's just there for him.
Yeah, and we leave the scene feeling like, oh, he has misgivings. But then, it's the day of the fight and he's getting prepped, and like that whole sequence is so great. Like him getting ready, Apollo getting ready, feel like,
The locker room
yeah, you see like the actual,
comparisons or whatever.
yeah, but like it seems like they must have consulted with actual fighters or trainers, because they seem to be doing very technical, like maybe mundane stuff. But for us as the viewers, it feels like really like, ooh, we're getting, and they're doing like the muscle, like the lung exercise,
Right, the lung
and
exercises, the massages to the muscles, the
massages.
Vaseline on the faces.
And like the nose. I think Rocky has like a Nasonex or something up his
Yeah,
nose.
they
And
put Vaseline all over their faces too.
yeah, so just like very technical steps leading up to this fight, which is cool.
Behind the scenes that get you pumped up.
Yeah, it gets you pumped up. So then you have the start of the fight where they introduce Rocky, and of course you have that ridiculous
Oh, wait,
Shamrock.
Yeah, Rocky's got his Italian stallion robe on, and it's got like a Shamrock Industries meat company, meat
It was
packing.
Paulie's,
Probably sold sold advertising
right?
with
he has
Rocky's
for,
blessing.
Yeah,
Rocky's
yeah.
blessing. But then there's the intro to Apollo,
Oh, of course, so perfect.
which starts off in the first movie as him coming in grandiose, like
Right.
grandiose. He's like it looks like he's like on a horse, but it looks like he's on a horse, and like he's wearing like it's the whole George Washington thing, crossing the Delaware. It's so showy. It's so Apollo Creed,
It's so
the
perfect.
master of disaster.
It's so great. And he's fantastic. Carl Weathers was the best. I mean, I know he even wasn't the first choice for this
Right.
film. You see, he wasn't the first choice. Freaking Talia Shire wasn't the first choice. Sly Stallone wasn't the first choice. Maybe Burgess Meredith was, but
He wasn't.
he wasn't.
He wasn't.
What about Burt Young? He wasn't either.
Burt Young wasn't either. Burgess Meredith maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
So I'm saying, like,
Because Burt Young, it wasn't going to be Paulie. It was going to be a Jewish mom.
that's right. That's right. Wait, so they were supposed to be Jewish?
It was going to be Adrian Stein. And then it turned into an Italian character.
Named after her paternal grandfather, I
Yeah.
think, Panino. But yeah, so like it's just amazing how like none of these actors were first choice, and they just killed this movie. Like they did a fantastic
They were made for
ensemble
it.
job, ensemble work to the T's. Like they were amazing. Even the guy who later we know as Duke. Right?
Apollo's trainer.
Apollo's trainer, but in later films,
This guy was seeing the foresight before everybody. When he saw on TV Rocky punching the meat,
Yes. He was like,
he was like, "Yo, champ, we got a guy training in the unordinary, extraordinary circumstances here, and we should look out." He's like, "Don't worry, I'll knock him down in 3."
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then we never even mentioned that Rocky's a southpaw. They did kind of make a big deal out of that when they were
Right.
choosing him. And he also
Explains it to her in the ice skating rink.
in the ice skating rink. And I'm sure, for the technicality of the final fight, if anybody's paying attention, I'm sure they can, point out all the southpaw stuff. But I didn't.
Right, because
really
Apollo's trainer says, don't mess with southpaws. They do everything backwards."
Right. And maybe that's why he broke his ribs later.
Yeah,
Because he wasn't.
He's not used to
not
someone
used
coming
to-
in with the left. He's used to people coming to the right.
So before that, we have Apollo Creed coming in, like being introduced in this.
Like George Washington
Yeah,
crossing the
amazing.
Delaware.
He was great, and then I guess the fight starts, and
Yeah, they film. It's a 15-round boxing match.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, it was 15 rounds. They actually show in the movie rounds 1, 2, 14, and 15 as full rounds,
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes or whatever. So we only see 4 rounds, but those are the most important rounds.
yeah, and you can, and immediately you have like a few faltering steps, where Rocky's not really, connecting.
Yeah,
and then-
well, the fight starts, and then like you realize Apollo eventually realizes that Rocky's there to fight,
right.
and Apollo is like there to play, And then the trainer's like, "Yo, I don't think he got the memo. He's here to fight."
Yeah. Yeah. And then he gets into the game and really starts fighting himself. And then you have like, where Rocky's paying attention to the body. We don't really know Creed's focus other than just surprise. Like I feel like
Yeah,
he's
now
just surprised.
now it's react
Yeah.
because he's not expecting this.
But what I mean is, like, they didn't really spend a lot of time in the movie telling us why he was the champ. Like that he was. All we know is that he never was defeated before.
Right.
But
Undefeated.
we don't know. We don't know like what his specialty is. Like they didn't really mention that kind of thing. But Rocky obviously does the best he can, and then he asks for his eyes to be cut, his eyelids, because he can't see anything. At one point, he surprises the ref because even Mick is like, "Stay down, stay down."
Stay down.
And he gets back up, and the ref is like, "Okay." And then
Carl
even
Weathers.
even Creed is
Creed. He's like, "Wow, this guy doesn't stop."
right. Like at one point, he was Creed was celebrating. And then Rocky gets back up and everyone's going crazy. And then it was so funny because you could tell that the big crowds weren't really part of the production.
Yeah, well, a couple scenes. But the important thing is that like now the whole movie and his life comes down to a 15-round boxing match where it's the same thing. Like in life, you get knocked down, you got to get back up and keep going.
And he just wants to go to this.
He just wants to go the distance. He doesn't
wants
want
to
to
go
get
the
counted out. He just wants to go the distance. He doesn't even want to win. He just,
Right.
for him, a win is going the distance with
Right.
Apollo Creed.
Right.
Because like even there's a scene where Rocky's in the bar, and the bartender is like saying some pretty racist stuff
yeah, he
about
does.
Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, you believe this blah 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 clown?" And like the look of Rocky's face where he's like, "You're talking about Apollo Creed. He's the world champion of boxing. This guy worked for this.
Right.
He's an amazing person. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can just see him. He's not like, yeah, this guy's a bum. No, he's like, this guy's the champion of
He
the
has
world.
reverence.
He's my idol.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this guy, not my idol, but he's like, this guy's the champion. You got to respect this guy.
Right. Right.
Which
Yeah.
shows you how much he respects the sport. That's another thing. It's like that's what he loves, that he respects the sport, because he'd rather, in the beginning, that's what it was. It was like he'd rather do something else than actually do it right, because
Right.
it wouldn't be fair to the sport or whatever, to him.
So then we
We get
get
the 4 rounds.
the 4 rounds, and then
We don't need to get into these 4 rounds, because watch the movie and watch the 4 rounds,
Yes.
and then like you're gonna see how cool that is. Everything, choreography, the effects. The biggest budget in this movie was for effects.
and it was Michael Westmore.
It was Michael Westmore, our favorite facial face
he's
mask
on it.
effects
Yeah,
guy
he's the mentor on Face
on
Off
Face Off.
on FX.
Yeah, man. So that guy was like a young Westmore doing it for the love and making those awesome cuts and
Yeah, he did.
scars and
And
stuff.
the cauliflower ears.
Cauliflower
I think,
ear, yeah, for Mick.
But I was surprised because I feel like the end of the fighting actually came suddenly. Like I was like, oh, because then the ring,
Because it's 15 rounds, so
Yeah.
you do 1, 2 of them getting all heated.
right.
Then they just basically montage, swipe, fade into 15, 16, 14, 15.
But what I mean is at the end of 15, like, because there wasn't like a knockout or there wasn't like anything, all of a sudden you hear a bell ring and you're like, oh, it's over. And then like, everyone's rushing the stage
Yeah.
and then of course, Adrian with her hat, she looks so pretty.
Right, her red beret.
Her red beret.
Little
And
red
she's
beret.
like, Rocky. And he's like, Adrian from the ring. And it's so emotional.
Very memorable ending scene.
Oh, so
She
emotional.
runs to the ring.
And she can't get there, and then
Paulie's
trying to get
ring.
in, and they're not letting. But then Paulie lets her in. He sneaks her in, and she gets in, and
Which is beautiful, because it's kind of like him letting go, too.
yeah,
Of his
yeah,
sister,
yeah, or like she's not a loser anymore because
Right.
he's always been
right.
so like.
Right.
And then of course the embrace, and she says I love you, and he says I love you, and it's like, oh my god. And then you get that still frame again, that freeze frame, and that's how the movie ends. It's like Rocky and Adrian.
You do hear in the background before that happens that it's a draw.
Yeah,
And
and
that-
then the decision
By
is
decision,
Creed.
Apollo Creed wins. and
Yeah.
remains heavyweight champion of the
Right.
world.
And he celebrates and then whatever. So you know he didn't win the fight, but he won in life.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
he did what he wanted, was to go the round, and he was in between all of this, while they're showing the fight, you know, they're also showing the spectators in the arena and also at the bar, like the local people. Everyone's so
Right.
happy
Everyone
for
around
him.
the different spots that we know about.
Yeah, everyone's like
Cheering
"Do
him on,
Rocky,
yeah.
do Rocky," you know, like you could tell it's the birth of a hometown hero,
Right.
and that's
Now
special.
everyone has someone to believe in.
Yes, something and someone to believe in. It's true, and so then we know. Of course, you don't know at the time, or the audiences of 1976 didn't know, but we know we're going to see all these characters again, and they're going to. I feel like the film really did a good job of laying out a framework for these characters to be interesting enough to want to know more about all of them in all of these films that come. You
Right.
know, like they're all
Right.
they all get more fleshed out, and like we're always happy to see them in all the other movies. And I think a lot of times it's hard to do that because, you know, you have a character that doesn't have anywhere to go after a certain point in the story, and all of these characters still had everywhere to go at the end of the story. So
But what's great is that as soon as the boxing match ends, Rocky and Apollo say to each other, "There ain't gonna be no rematch." He's like, "I don't want a rematch. There's not gonna be another rematch."
yeah, yeah. And then of course there's a rematch.
Of course, of course. I mean, let's talk alternate endings. It's just kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Before they had the ending of her running into the ring and them embracing,
Right.
it was him walking out of the ring, and there's the iconic poster of them holding hands. When you see the back of
Right.
them as they're walking hands, the original thing was the boxing match ends. He kind of gets out of the ring, finds her, and they both just walk out holding hands.
Oh wow.
And like, I think Sylvester Stallone and some other people were like, it's not really
Right.
like punching your heart good enough yet.
Right.
So like they did that, the other scene, which I think is totally great.
Yeah.
Totally great.
Wait, so that was supposed to be the end after the fighting, all the choreography that we saw?
Yeah, when the boxing match ends and he loses, he just kind of gets out of the ring and leaves with her.
Got it.
Now, the original script apparently was a lot darker, where like Mick apparently was like a really bad racist, and kind of spoiled it for him in the whole love of boxing. So at the end of the match, he throws the fight. Apollo wins, and he quits boxing and he leaves.
Oh yeah. No, I wouldn't like that. Oh, I forgot to mention Joe Frazier makes an appearance.
Yeah.
Actual Joe Frazier comes on and congratulates Rocky and I'm sorry. It's my Apple Watch. Congratulates Rocky and Apollo Creed, and Apollo Creed's like, "I'm gonna fight you one day. You keep ducking me or whatever," and it's so funny.
Right, and that's when Sylvester Stallone said he improv'd by saying, "Well, they must be friends," which is great because it's such a thing for him to say. Like it's so like ignorance is bliss type thing,
Right.
you know.
Right.
Fun fact about that, which is kind of sad, but like apparently a handful of different ex-champs were supposed to show up, and no one came with Joe Frazier.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, which is
He
okay.
did great. And then, just like you said earlier, in the movie, there was supposed to be all of those like 300 extras.
The ice skating rink scene, which is very famous now, that everyone loves when he's just skating with no skates.
Yeah.
Well, there was supposed to be 300 extras when they showed up, and there was only one extra. So instead of canceling, Sylvester Stallone said, "Let's just make it like it's closed, and
Right.
then we get to go on the ice by ourselves."
Yep.
Which is brilliant. I mean, like that's
That's what I mean. Like, it's just so many things actually happened in real life to make this movie that much more endearing and much more realistic and just resonant. Like, it really, just all these little details that made these people real and made what they were going through like a story that you want to root for.
yeah. I mean, talk about preparing your character. Like everything's just falling in place for you for your character. You're like, the perfect setting is happening, like
Yeah.
like the
But you
vibe.
but you have to have the forethought and the love to see it that way.
Yeah, and be in 100%.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like there was no turning back for these people. And they're making this movie. It was like, we got to make this movie. Like, we got to do it.
Yeah,
So,
this is it. Blood, sweat, and tears.
yeah. So that's why I think it was so successful. And I think it's for Stallone himself. I feel like it's a story he believes in so much that he's been able to make a huge franchise out of it that is, for the most part, really successful and really endearing. Like, I mean, yeah, there were some missteps and 5 was stupid. Um, but for the most part, people really love it. Like, and
Yeah.
they always come back for more, and now, I mean, now he's really too old to be fighting. So now we have Creed, which
Which is brilliant.
is so smart and
It's
is
such a
so
great
good.
continuation. It's so good. You're right.
Yeah, so
I
look
mean,
forward. They have another one coming out, right? Creed 2.
yeah, Creed 2 is going to be happening too. It's not going to be the same director because he's doing Black Panther. Mm-hmm. But apparently Sylvester Stallone was going to direct it, and then him and the star,
Jordan.
yeah,
Michael B. Jordan. I
Michael B.
think is
Jordan, they both decided against that, and they found a good director that they're going to be using. So I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be great.
it. Me too. I liked Creed.
Yeah, Creed was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Sylvester Stallone totally pulled it off again, knowing how to kind of step aside, but still be there for the legacy. And it's great because his character is still the same. Like that whole like,
Even Rocky Balboa was good. I mean, it was stupid that he actually fought, but I mean, just the story of him and his son and
right,
like
the restaurant, and
the
like
restaurant and Marie.
Marie
And
back
then
in his
finding
life.
out Adrian is gone. It was heartbreaking. Was Paulie gone too?
I think so too. Yeah, it was like back. He was back to like Skid Row,
Yeah.
but no one was there.
It was but it was good. It was a good movie.
Yeah.
They're all good.
Totally good.
You know?
I mean, this is the one though. I mean, like
Yeah.
if you want to, I mean, yeah, 4 is great to throw in. 3 is great to throw in.
4 is awesome.
But like to get like a good nostalgic, like really filmmaking type
Yeah.
beginning, jump into this, and then as soon as you see this, you got to see 2 because it's like 2 is like Rocky directs it. Sylvester Stallone directs it, and it's really good. Like almost the same as 1, but it's even better now. Like he does the same steps run, but now he's got
all the people
all the
behind him.
kids.
Yep.
Like excuse me. So like it's great. Then you get 3, where it gets really campy because you got a whole
But
like
it's nice that he becomes friends with Apollo.
Yeah.
And,
he does some
trains
stuff with
together.
like Hulk Hogan. He's got
Yeah.
Mr. T as Clubber Lang. That's great. We lose Mick.
Yeah.
But then we get 4. Drago. Apollo comes out with the same thing as 1.
Oh, his crazy like
Total
Las
pomp
Vegas,
and circumstance.
like,
It's going to be like an exhibition.
Yeah.
Drago doesn't think so. No. Drago kills him.
Yep.
Then Rocky has to train now to do this. I mean, it's great. All of them are great. We're here about 1.
Yeah. Let's remember we're here for the
I
original.
don't remember the original. I think the time has come for us to say goodbye.
Good night.
Good night to this 4th episode of the After Dark. Folks, be sure to tune in to the next After Dark, where we will continue discussing the films that we love, and we're going to keep trying to do it hate-free. I think it's been going pretty good that way. Claudia, as always, thank you for being the other half of the we on this After Dark show here on the 0DB podcast feed.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you feel better. I'm trying to feel better too. I'm your host, Gabe Aniel. Be sure to comment or ask questions at 0dbpodcast.com, or you can reach me on Twitter at 0db23 and at 0dbpodcast on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for listening, and you can catch these shows on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podomatic, and YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe, and please feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you all, and thanks again. See you next time. Good night.
Good night.
Rocky! Ladies and gentlemen, Adrian, you're breaking the jack. Come on, let's go, buddy. Come on.
Molly?
Adrian! Adrian!
Rocky!
Adrian!
Rocky!
Hey, where's your hat?
I love you!
I love you.